Hi, I'm Brad. And first off, I want to thank Robert for the introduction and Nick for asking me to speak. I am absolutely excited to be here, but I'm nervous as shit. And, what's so funny about it is, the two things came up for me when I was going to come speak here. One was my perfectionism, and the other was imposter syndrome. I have so much respect for the people at Animas and every one of you sitting out there that I'm like, are they just going to think I'm full of shit? And the other thing that came up for me was my perfectionism. So since Nick asked me to speak last summer, no, I don't know, this summer, I started writing down thoughts. I put it all into a really nice long scripted speech that was 3 pages long. And this week I had a crisis, and I totally ripped it up. And I'm like, because literally when I was doing it, I was like, and then I did this, and then I did that. So it's a little bit more fluid at the moment. So hold with me. I think one key thing for me is I had a really great career in consulting, but the thing is I had lost my passion around that. And what I wanted to do was find my passion again. And when I started exploring that, I moved into coaching. But I had to do a lot of work in order to get there, and then how I brought that into organizations. I think the key thing for me is what was my life story and my experiences that allowed me to do what I needed to do in terms of my career and some personal stuff that came up for me. How I came brave enough to leave my full-time job, and then what I did as a coach to start getting into organizations and some of the more practical things I did. I think the key thing for me in terms of my life story is really, I never fit in anywhere. I was always I was always an outsider looking in, and I never really belonged anywhere. And when I was growing up, I just felt like I was I was bullied, and we lived all over the United States. By the time I was 22, I'd lived in 7 different cities, and and I always felt a little bit alone. And when I started, the first thing that allowed me to start connecting with people was when I was at university. I actually came out, and as gay, if that's what I meant. As if you didn't know. Anyway, and what that allowed me to do was kind of connect with people on a different level, right? I actually started having friends. I actually started feeling like I had a tribe, and I actually started to learn how to relate to people. And I loved my life. Then I started working in my career, and for 10 years I worked at 20th Century Fox and Sony Pictures Entertainment in Los Angeles. And during that time, I helped one company launch new divisions, and another company at Sony, I helped them with their transformation project. After that, I knew that there were some key things that I was really in love with around my job. And for me, it wasn't being an internal person. To me, it was going out and working with several different companies, being able to work on several different projects, and to travel. And so that's the kind of job I went out and found. And for 17 years, I traveled approximately 125 days a year. I've worked in 22 different countries. And you know what? I got exposed to some of the most amazing companies, and then some also real shit ones. But what I did was I learned how to relate to people. And I could go in and I could hear what was going on in a company. And I can guarantee you, when you're helping people set up their strategy, you really hear what the people issues are, and then how to operationalize doing that for a company. When I moved to London in 2004, let me back up a second. The other key thing, and this is me just being honest with you because it's a really big part of my story, and that is I got sober in 1995. And why I think that's important to say is because it allowed me to connect. It allowed me to connect with people on a very different way. Here I'm working in a field where drinking is really prevalent, and I was still able to relate to people. And when Lenny did the Art of Coaching last summer here at Animas, she put up a screen of Dr. Bob and Bill, and she said, this is one of the most transformational programs that you'll ever see. And she goes, does anybody know who it is? I'm like, yeah, it's the founders of Alcoholics Anonymous. And you know what? And when you think about signature programs, and if you're thinking about what is a signature program, the AA is really, the first 3 steps are really based on creating that base for yourself. So it's based, for me, on honesty, hope, and faith. And then steps 3 through 9 are really around getting rid of all your shit in your past and then saying you're sorry for it. And then steps 10, 11, and 12 are about maintaining your sobriety by saying I'm sorry, meditating, and being of service. And that's who I am today. I'm a man of service. The other thing is I went through a leadership program with Stonewall, and it was about showing up as a role model within my company. And it was really about authentic leadership. And with authentic leadership, there's just some key things that you need to keep in mind. And that's like, really know who you are, and don't be afraid to show it in work. If you're just being yourself, everybody will relate to you. For 17 years, I managed teams of 20 to 50 people, and I knew everything that was going on with them. I knew their strengths, their weaknesses, and where I needed to pull them to come along with me to deliver for a client. I think the other thing was really around transparency. What you see with me is what you get. There's not a lot of walls to break down here, as you can tell from everything I'm telling you, but. I'm totally honest with people when they ask me their opinion on things, my opinion on things. And another key thing in the work I love that Yannick does is around maintaining a positive psychological state, because there are always two ways to handle issues in this life. There is living in the problem or living in the solution. And to shift to living in the solution, the only thing I need to do is keep on thinking about things that are important to me. So writing gratitude lists, maintaining my confidence, having that hope that something is going to be better. And that's what I do around trying to maintain a positive psychological state. And the last thing is really around being empathetic. I'm a listener, and I can respond to people, and I know what's in their heart. And that's who I am. So I had this amazing career. I was a director at KPMG, and in 2015, I hit a wall. And that wall was huge. And it came about that, and I'll be really honest with you, I was depressed. I was a little suicidal, and I was having chest pains all the time. And I didn't know what was up, but someone suggested that I go see a life coach. And Hans Schumann's sick today. I don't know if he made it for this, but I went and saw Hans Schumann, and he helped me with the career coaching. And there were 3 things that I knew I wanted to do: coaching, consulting, or be a photographer. And very diverse things, but the last one. But, what I did is I threw myself into coaching. I quit my job, and the day after I quit my job, my heart pains went away. And I automatically was a much happier person. And so, and it's amazing because the people that knew me right before I quit said that I had lost my zest for life. And now they see me and they're like, you're totally back to who you used to be. And sometimes it's just not, when you can't see your way out of a problem, it's like really looking for the solution. And that's how I work with my clients, how you get to where you're going to be. I think when I think about how I work with corporate clients and one-to-one clients, there's a few key things that I needed to do first. The first was to find my style. So I combine both coaching and consulting together with corporate clients, and then I have one-to-one clients where I do just coaching. And I primarily do entrepreneurs or executives. And what I do around that is I work with them as a clean slate and what they want to achieve. And for me, it's really about reconnecting them with their passions, why they're either in the role they're in or why they started the business, what they wanted to. And with that, understanding their limiting beliefs. Because as you know, as coaches out there, there's a whole bunch of issues that are common out there. It's around confidence, imposter syndrome, perfectionism, procrastination, on and on. And there's some key issues that people are dealing with. And if you just really can get underneath those limiting beliefs, you can start helping people reconnect with the positive side of their life and reconnect with their passion and where they want to go. I think for me, really kind of defining my style was important because it led me from being more, when I first started my coaching, to being a solution-based coach. Now it's a lot more exploratory in order to get to the right solution in order for people to thrive in their lives. The other key thing that I had to deal with when I first started my coaching business was finding clients. And it scared the shit out of me. And the reason it scared me was because I didn't know how to go about trying to find clients. And there's three things that really impacted me. One, I just put up a post on Facebook the day after my first weekend at Animas, and I just said, listen, I've left my job as this great job I have, and I'm really scared, and this is what I'm going to do. I'm retraining as a coach, and you know what? If you want someone that's going to listen to you like you've never listened to you before and help and reconnect with what you're passionate about, I want you to be a practice client for me. And it was amazing, except I got 24 responses. And with those 24 responses, I found people that I could work with and that wanted some assistance. So that was the first thing. Just put yourself out there. The second thing was around. I was in Launchpad with Nick, and I was really, really excited because I didn't have a paying client, but I had gotten one of my friends to pay me £100 to come and take photos of their baby. And Nick said, and we were talking about not having any paying clients, and Nick said, Brad, well, what makes you qualified to be a photographer? And I'm like, oh crap, he's right. I have nothing. I have no qualifications, but I do have qualifications. I have to be a life coach. I had my life experiences, which I've shared with you. I've had my experiences of managing people, and I've had my own experiences as being an executive. And what was amazing was he sent me a goal within 30 days to go out and find 2 paying clients. And he also gave me the book to read, Get Clients Now. If you haven't read it, it's a very practical guide on how to find clients. And based on what Nick told me and working that book with it for 28 days, I set my goal, a small goal, to have 2 paying clients. I had 2 paying clients that were paying me £100 an hour by the end of that 28 days. And so it's just really, you guys, there's nothing to, and it's amazing when you put yourself out there and just what can come from that. The thing that how I get into corporates is I'm a natural networker. I am very comfortable, and it's from all my years of consulting, I'm very comfortable going out to, and just going out for coffees or lunches and talking with people. And I think the key thing around being in that kind of environment is, I don't have a website. I have a LinkedIn profile. I don't do social media for my business, but I do talk, and I talk all the time. And when I do talk, I just show up and I connect with the person that's in front of me, and I ask them, I find out what they're up to, I tell them what I'm up to, and then sometimes it leads to a conversation about, coaching. So sometimes it will turn into a little mini coaching session, or sometimes it will talk, people just naturally want to talk to me about their businesses, so that's how I've been getting some entrepreneurs. And I love it, and at the end of every conversation, and I do 2 to 3 coffees a week. And at the end of every conversation, what I do is I ask them 2 basic questions. I said, do you know anyone that wants coaching, including yourself? And 2, who else can I talk, or if they own their own business or are an executive, who do you, what the question I use is, the question I use is just, is there something I can do within your company? And the third question is really about who can I talk to next? And you guys, that's led me on a little amazing journey on finding things. So from one coffee that I had last July, somebody referred me to a person who owns a magazine and another person that owned a digital marketing company. And that I had the meeting with one of them in November and the other one in January. So the key thing to keep in mind is that doing any kind of company work, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. And unfortunately, it's a little bit more on the slow side sometimes. And then what ends up happening was they ended up both hiring me this summer. In one company, the magazine hired me to come in and do some teamwork. And basically, I helped them set up their vision and values. And then we had to do some conflict management amongst the senior team, which was another little out of scope work. And then we're doing a team day. And for those like 4 days of work, it was an amazing. And it's like 10,000 pounds worth of work. And it's really cool. And then the other digital marketing company wanted me to help them with their vision and strategy. I think for me, so networking. If you're uncomfortable networking, feel free to reach out to me because it's something that I'm really good at. And you know what? Every single one of you in this room has a story to tell. And every single one of you knows amazing people. And it's just about asking the next right person at the end of the call, at the end of the meeting, do you know who else I can talk to? I think, in terms of knowing what works for you is really important. And I think having my own business has always kind of been a dream of mine. But what I do realize about myself is I get energy off of working with other people. I love working on team development, but I'd rather work on team development and have someone there to kind of interact with. And one of my networking lunches with this woman who I just love and adore, I said, you know what, I really want to work with a company that's doing something around passion and doing something within companies. And she referred me to this group called Disruptive Coaching. And right now I'm working with them. I started off working with them on doing some of their executive coaching. And I just asked them one day, I said, in terms of business development, what can we do? And so we started putting together some proposals. So we put a proposal in, and we put a proposal in, I'm sorry, let me back up. We went to a meeting with the president of one of these divisions. He runs a division of a larger company, but his division's 5,000 employees. We met with him, and we just said, what's going on? He goes, this is what's going on, and this is what I'd like to do. And he said, do you guys handle that? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And so we talked a little bit about it, and we went away, and we developed a straw man. And with that straw man, we went back about 3 or 4 weeks later, and we presented the straw man. He goes, this is exactly what I want, except I don't want this. And then he says, can you guys put together a proposal for me? So about another 2 or 3 weeks, we put together a proposal, and we submitted it. And that was probably about 2 months ago. And that proposal's for it's quite a bit of money, and it's working with a few coaches. And what's amazing about it is he wants to buy it. And now it's just getting the scoping right. And we're meeting with him again in a few weeks to kind of go through that. And so, it's a constant. When you're wanting to work in corporates, it's really kind of a constant talking. It's talking. It's meeting with people, finding out what's going on within their business, turning it around and I'm sorry, it just got thrown. And then also, don't be so quick to do a proposal right away. What I find in terms of winning work is having an additional conversation with a straw man proposal, because that's where you get a lot more feedback on what you're thinking with them. And then after the straw man, say what do you like and what don't you like, and it enables you to actually put together the different kinds of roles that you want, the different kinds of components of the project that you want. And I love it, and I love it, because it keeps that conversation going. And we have 2 other proposals out, and all those proposals are over 150,000 pounds. And what's amazing about it is it kind of blends that consulting background with that coaching background. And the end stage of all our proposals is targeting coaching within the organization. I'm absolutely in love with my life. And you know what, I do, not only do I coach with corporates, but the other thing I coach with is a group called Sanctus, and then they do mental health in the workplace. And what I love about that is I get to go into companies, I coach for a day, and then we have, like on Monday, we have a reflection session with all the coaches, and I feel like I'm a part of something, and I'm actually really passionate about mental health in the workplace because I think it's something that's so important. And other things I do, besides doing things in my personal life, I try to also give a little bit back. So, I work with an organization called Mike's Charity, which is my friend Amanda and her husband. A friend of theirs committed suicide, and we're doing stuff around dealing with suicide in the city. And another thing that I'm doing with is a charity called Human, with an E-N, H-U-M-E-N. It's about dealing with toxic masculinity and how it impacts the workplace, and how toxic masculinity is primarily one of the problems in our society today. And and what's really interesting about that is it's really resonating with a lot of different people. And it's just, so it's like I not only get to have a full life, of doing my own business, working with corporates through Disruptive, working with other corporates through Sanctus, but I've kind of created a blended approach. And Kevin and I were talking about this at the break, is that it's just that blended approach is, what's amazing is you can decide you want to have a pure coaching business, you can decide you want to have a hybrid, or you can do anything you want. And I think that's one thing that Catherine says is, it's finding out what works for you. And that's what I needed to do in terms of what works for me. Thanks. And then, I hope I made sense through this, and I didn't ramble on too much. But, I think the key thing is define your style, know your message, network. I am the biggest proponent of networking because I don't have any social media presence or even a website, and I'm getting amazing money by just networking. And I think the key thing is, find out what you're passionate about doing and then build your business for that. And I just hope that the examples I provided were just what my experience was, and I hope that you go out and can create what you want to create. So thank you very much.